Well, hello there, folks. Today's video is a little bit different. Recently, I was at a conference and I was chatting to some people about online delivery. And this person was asking me about my personal preference regarding Zoom versus Teams, Teams versus Zooms. Now, if you're watching this channel, maybe you are someone that presents online, or maybe you just present face to face, right? But in today's video, I wanted to give you my personal perspective around which is potentially better for online delivery, Zoom versus Teams. Now, this video is going to be very, very, very biased, right? Now, it's going to be biased based on my experience and my level of, I guess, aptitude and competence with the particular systems at play, right? Now, I'm going to make some statements and you may say, oh, but Teams can actually do that, right? Now, my overall conclusion in this video, I'm going to give it to you right now. Zoom is better. Zoom is better. Zoom is better for online delivery of training courses or workshops, right? Teams is much better for internal communications within companies, but Teams is not necessarily the best option for delivering content for online workshops, right? Now, there's a number of reasons why I say that. And if you're following this channel in any way, shape, or form, you know that ultimately my big criteria is ease of use, ease of communication, and ease of engagement with an audience. Now, there may be people out there that say Teams is better, and they may have more, I guess, familiarity with Teams, and then I may say some things, and you're like, well, Teams can do that, and actually, Teams is easier in that respect, right? But I guess my conclusion of this video is Zoom is more logical, it's easier to find things, and it's easier to transition to things. So I'm going to give you a bunch of things that I'm going to say, and you may completely disagree. That's okay. And it may simply come back to the fact that I need more practice with Teams, right? But the fact is, if I need more practice, well, that's simply because I find it harder to use, right? Some people may find Zoom harder to use because they're more used to Teams. Well, I'm going to make some statements. You may agree, disagree. Drop your thoughts into the comments below, right? But here's the thing. First of all, chat box function. I find the chat box a lot easier to find in Zoom, and it's a lot easier to just have it by my side here and be typing into it. People type into it. But with Teams, you have to go in and out of stuff. And, like it's just funky. The chat box, like you have to have it open and other things going on. And you can't just isolate the chat box. You can't just separate it out from other things, right? So Zoom definitely wins in that space. Next one, whiteboard. The whiteboard functions in Zoom are much better because you can limit it to a space. You can also have multiple whiteboards. And I just find with Teams whiteboards, like there's no limits on the screen. So you could be going all the way over here or all the way over there. I find the whiteboards harder to use, right? And in response to that, if I have to deliver on Teams, then I'm going to bring up a Word doc and I'll teach via the Word doc because the whiteboards just don't work in Teams the way I really want them to. All right, so first of all, chat function, better in Zoom. Whiteboards, better in Zoom. Next one, I find it actually a little bit harder to switch between screens in Teams. I just find that functionality of share screen a little bit harder to navigate, right? You've got to have the thing go down here, and it's okay, but it just does my head in, right? I find share screen function much easier in Zoom. Next one, I find it's a little bit harder to control the participants and mute them, unmute them, video, turn on, turn off, and that kind of thing. And also renaming people, I find that harder in Teams, right? And also, as part of that, in Teams, people can freely share their screen or not share their screen, right? They don't have to ask for permission to share their screen. In Zoom, you've got permission in regards to who can share their screen and who can't, which leads to the conclusion that Teams is more of a team collaborative environment. If people can share what they want to share and basically just do what they want to do, because that would be what you would normally have in a team meeting in an office environment. But in Zoom, you get to control who can share their screen and who's got permission to do that, right? So I much prefer Zoom if we're delivering online training or an online workshop. So next one, login issues, right? With Zoom, anybody can basically log in if they've got the password, if they've got the link, and they can log in via the Zoom app, or they can log in via the Internet portal as well, right? Teams, on the other hand, you have to have Teams app downloaded onto your computer, and you also have to occasionally be invited into the network, so to speak, right? So logging in can be a bit of a challenge. Next one, I just find with recording. Recording is an interesting one. I find it much easier to record the session in Zoom, and you can record it onto your Zoom account or onto your Zoom computer. Teams, on the other hand, doesn't really give you that option, and it's a little bit funky. And when it comes to your computer, how it comes and all of that, right? You don't have as much control around the recording, and you just don't know when it's going to show up, right? So something to think about. Next, you can't. This is a big one. You can't pause the screen when you are sharing it in Teams. So in Zoom, it's really, really cool because you can show something, pause it, and then go off and be doing something else, getting ready to show the next thing or do the next thing. And your audience you can control what they're looking at while you're getting set up for the next thing. Teams, on the other hand, I don't know, I haven't yet found the functionality to pause the screen and be able to pause it while you're doing other things and then show the next thing, right? So we need to be aware that the whole pause function is really, really, really handy if you're someone that can be planning 2 or 3 steps ahead. And for example, maybe there's a segment on the screen you want to pause and then go further down and be doing some things and then reveal the things on the document, right? So being able to pause it is a really, really cool tool that Zoom has that I haven't yet found on Teams, right? So again, it may be there, but I haven't yet found it because I just don't know where it is. Maybe you do, and maybe drop a comment below. But again, if I haven't found it, maybe it's just because it's just too hard to find there, right? Now, one last thing I'll just touch on is breakout rooms. Breakout rooms. If you played in the space of Zoom and Teams, you know that the whole setting up of breakout rooms is different in Zoom and Teams. Now, my personal bias here, I find it so much easier to set up breakout rooms in Zoom than Teams. Teams seems to have more steps to actually do it, and it's just like, I don't know, I find it 10 times, there's like 10 steps, whereas in Zoom, there's like 2 or 3 steps. And I'm just going to say I'm biased, and I'm going to say in Zoom, it's easier to do breakout rooms, easier. And also in Zoom breakout rooms, you can actually see microphones. So, for example, I can pop people into a breakout room and I can see who's talking, when they're talking, how long they're talking for. But in Teams, unless I actually go into the breakout room, I can't hear and I can't see who's talking, right? So for me, I much prefer the Zoom functionality in regards to breakout rooms. It's so much easier to move people. I can see who's got their screen up. I can see who's talking. Teams, I can see who's got the screen up, but I can't see who's talking, right? So those are my personal observations and judgments around Zoom versus Teams. Teams is much better, like it's designed for internal communication within companies. That's the way I see it, right? Now, Teams, I believe it has some different functionalities or modules or different apps that you can buy. So, for example, School for Teams or Teams for Schools or whatever it is. But I would still say that the functionality is not going to change that very much, right? Zoom is always going to be the better option for online training, online delivery, right? You don't see the Anthony Robbins of the world, getting and doing it on Teams. They're all about Zoom. And there's a lot of functionality that Zoom brings in, is constantly updating things as well, right? So, personal bias, and you may be a Teams lover or you may be a Zoom's lover. But it's kind of like you go, what's your favorite supermarket? Do you love Coles or do you love Woolworths, right? It's you sort of go with whatever you're familiar with. Myself personally, I can do both, but I do find Zoom so much easier. Sometimes people even say Google Hangouts. I'm like, okay, but again, ease of use. How easy is it to do these various things? Do they even have breakout rooms? If they do, great. But how easy is it to do the functionality? And how easy is it to move things around on the screen? I am a die-hard Zoom lover. On that note, folks, hope you got some value. Hopefully, you got some thoughts from it. And if you've got your own bias or your own reasons for loving Teams, drop them in the comments. If you are also a Zoom's lover, drop that in the comment as well. I don't know, this is my personal bias, but I would say pick the medium or pick the mode that's best for the content that you are delivering. All right. There are times when Teams great. There are times when Zoom is great. Pick the mode and make sure that you align that to your message there, folks. On that note, folks, thanks for watching the video, and we'll see you on the next one. Thanks, as always, for commenting, and sharing this stuff that we share so that you can help you be the very best trainer that you can be, whether it's online or face-to-face. Thanks for watching, team. We'll see you on the next one. Bye for now.